Well, today, as you can see from the title, we're going to discuss something that has the potential to be a very sensitive subject. Now, how I happened upon this subject is I was watching another video on YouTube by another content creator, and in that video, it showed some of the difficulties associated with being a step parent, especially a stepfather. And upon looking at the comments that accompanied the video, it was clear that there were a lot of individuals, men especially, who had a lot to say about individuals thinking about considering being a stepfather. And so I felt like it was necessary for us to take a look at the topic. And of course, we're going to be objective. We're going to look at some of the pros and some of the cons. And then based upon that information, hopefully an individual can make their own educated decision about what it is that they want to do. There are some individuals on YouTube, some content creators that have a very strong bias against getting involved with a single parent. So if you would, as an example, we're going to use the names of two of my favorite people, John and Sarah. And so John is going on about his day. He's obviously late for work. And as he is walking up to the building to go inside and to start work, he runs into a beautiful woman. After inquiring about it, he finds out that her name is Sarah. And so over time, John and Sarah realize that they are very compatible with each other. And so naturally, marriage comes up into the picture, because you understand that John is a traditional man. But now, when John thinks about Sarah, his belief is that she would make the perfect wife for him. But now John hesitates. He has to think for a moment about the situation that he's in. Because even though Sarah is a very admirable woman who would make a great wife, he also knows that Sarah is a parent to two small boys. What would John do? Well, as we mentioned, there are varying opinions, some very extreme, some not as reasonable. But what we're going to do, we're going to try to take an objective, reasonable approach. And so what I need you to do, I need you to bear with me, hold your emotions at bay, and let's see if we can have a conversation about this topic. So, really, it's a topic, as we mentioned, that creates a varied response in our community. But now I must say this, and this is for everyone that decides to look at this video. If you're looking for something negative, I want you to leave right now. If you're looking for me to paint an unflattering picture of single parents, whether it be single mothers or single fathers, I need you to leave. If you think that I'm going to paint an unflattering picture of those who decide that they are willing to take on the responsibility of being a stepfather or a stepmother, I need you to leave right now. Okay, now that those people are gone, let's get into it. So now, because we're going to be objective, and I would rather that the final part of this video be positive, let's look at the cons first. What are some of the drawbacks of becoming a step parent, especially a stepfather? Well, let's look at it. If you are an individual and you are perhaps single and you are wanting to be married at some point in the future, then it's necessary to look at how prevalent single parent families are. Because based on how prevalent they are, then it'll help you to see the chances that you might run into one of these individuals in your daily life. And you could develop a relationship based upon your interaction with this person. So how prevalent are single parent families in the United States? So now, there's a high likelihood that individuals that you meet in your day-to-day life, they may be a part of a single parent family. They may be the only parent that's providing for their children. So that's one thing that might be considered a con, the prevalence of single parent families. Do we have another one? Well, what about the high divorce rate? Now, the overall divorce rate in America is 50%. But now notice this part. With 31 divorces for every 1,000 married women in the African American community. So for every 1,000 married women, there are 31 who get divorced. And then on an overall scale, throughout all ethnic groups, 50% of all individuals who get married will get a divorce. So now, whether you're looking at getting married to a single parent, or whether you're looking at getting married to someone that may be single like you, that's still the reality of marriage today. Half will make it, half will not. So now, what's another con? Because I'm a numbers guy, I thought that we look at the investment, the financial investment that's involved. It's clear that time will be involved. But what about the financial investment? Well, let's go back to John and Sarah. Let's say that John and Sarah decide to get married, and that Sarah, her 2 boys, are 2 years old. So now, what is it that John can expect? And now let's make this clear, because John is a traditional man. Then his view is that all of the resources, all of the responsibilities, I should say, the bills, all of that falls upon him. And so he takes that on because he's head of his household. So what can he expect? Well, right now in 2021, approximately, it takes $12,980 a year to raise a child. $12,980 a year. So let's do some math, some computation. The boys are 2 years old now, and we're expecting that the boys will leave home at 18, maybe go to college, maybe get an apartment, something along those lines. So it means that John and Sarah are responsible for the boys for 16 more years. And so if you look at it, $12,980 a year times 16 years for one child is $207,680. But remember now, we said she has 2 boys. So that price goes up to $415,360. And if Sarah is one who decides that she wants to enter into a partnership, let's say, for instance, her terms to get married to John was that they would be partners and they would split things 50-50. And that still would mean, in regards to that 16-year period, John would be responsible for $207,680. Now, I did that to kind of put things into perspective. Usually, in situations like these, this particular thought is never brought up. Individuals never reason on what would be required of them. And so I'm doing this just to illustrate what could be required and what could be a person's responsibility if this is the route that they choose to take. Now let's go into that again. Now, in addition to the $207,680, let's say, for instance, that John and Sarah want their children to go to college. And let's just take one. According to some estimates, if there is a child that wants to go to college in state, then the age of the child should be multiplied times $3,000. So for one child, the college savings that John and Sarah need to have on hand is $54,000. And of course, it's twice that for 2 children. I say all that to say that it's quite a bit of investment involved. That's quite a bit of an investment for a biological father. So it most definitely will be one for a father who is coming in to a family that has already been made. So now, what about other things? Could emotional difficulties come up? Could they play a part? Could they be a con? Absolutely. Let me read some examples to you. I have two here. And these are personal statements made by some of those individuals in those YouTube comments. Now, notice this. The first one. One stepfather confessed, "I was not really prepared to deal with all the problems related to bringing up my stepchildren." He said, "I went into the situation thinking that now that I had married their mother, I was their father." It was as simple as that. I did not understand the child's attachment to their biological father, and I made many mistakes. So, emotional difficulties? Absolutely. Now, what about a child of a blended family? Let's look at this. A stepson said, "My stepmom told me that being a step-parent is an unforgiving thing, especially for men. I love her and call her mom. But even she told me that if she had to advise me, she'd prefer me to marry a woman with no kids, so that I have time to bond versus becoming husband and dad at once. My sisters were very jealous that my brothers and triplet sisters and I got extra Christmas gifts, and they didn't, and it caused a rift between us. We are cool now, but it took years to happen. And my stepbrother from my mom's first marriage doesn't even talk to us, though my family did more than his own, and even his mother said that he needs to stop seeking acceptance from his birth father, who has repeatedly disowned him for many years." Now, he ended out his statement by saying this: "I know of one case where a man became stepdad and got the same respect, but the woman put him first and let the kids be disciplined. That's such a rare feat that is worth chancing." So, from these two examples, we can see that there are a lot of emotions that get involved in this situation. Emotions where one individual said that he thought that just because he married the mother, that now he became their father. And then even in the case of the stepson, there was resentment between the children. So most definitely, we can see that emotional distress becomes involved. So now, at this point, you're probably saying to yourself, "Well, Marcus, we just about know what your feelings are toward blended families, toward individuals coming into step families." And I'd have to say that you would be wrong. If you think that I'm opposed, absolutely not. Because I think that if an individual is unwilling to even consider being a stepfather, being a step parent, or finding an individual who is a single parent, I think you limit your options in regards to who you can marry. When you find one that's compatible with you, that you think will be able to get on your program and help you to progress, and you all go forward as a family, it's left up to you to make the decision as to what you will do. I can't decide for another man or another woman, but I will say this. If you leave out that pool of individuals, then now you're cutting down on potential mates, potential happiness in the future. So now, what are some of the pros? Because there has to be a way. There has to be a way that blended families, step parents, can succeed in what they've chosen to do. There has to be a way that stepfathers can come into a situation where they are honored for what they decided to do, and they're respected for what they decided to do. And that brings us to three different points that I want to highlight. The first point is that there is one basic quality that's needed in the family. One basic quality. That quality stems from respect. Respect is there first, and then as individuals continue to act in a respectful manner, then they develop love for one another. And regardless of what your personal beliefs might be, regardless of what religion you might be, regardless of what thought process you might have, love is necessary in the family unit. So it's necessary because it helps to smooth over differences that you might have with one another. And there are going to be differences. There are going to be differences because when a stepfather comes into a situation, it should be understood that the children that he's going to have to love and nurture, these individuals have been under the authority of someone else. And so it's going to take some time to adjust to his authority. So there are going to be differences. And then there are going to be differences in the way that they've been brought up to that point. And there are going to be differences in their personalities. One child is different from the next. So the way that you deal with one son, you might have to take a totally different approach to another son. So that quality of respect, but then the overarching quality of love will help to solve some of those difficulties, to smooth them out so that things can be peaceful. Now, another thing that has to be accepted in this situation, if you are willing to become a stepfather or a step-parent, is pivotal to understand that you may never replace the biological parent in that child's heart. Yes, they may love you and they may respect you, and that may be all that you can ask for. Because in this instance, you are not the biological parent. You don't have that bond. So it's necessary to first be realistic. Come into the situation knowing that. Because one biological parent, that's what he expected. He wanted to have first place in his stepchildren's hearts. And he mentioned that when they would visit the biological father, then he would speak ill of the biological father. When they had a good time with the biological father, he felt horrible. And then the article goes on to say that when they had a terrible time with their stepfather, with their biological father, then the stepfather said he felt elated. He was thankful for that. But when he looked back at his actions, he was just afraid that he was going to lose his children, his stepchildren, I should say. And so he said that one of the most difficult things was to come to terms with the importance of the biological father's role in my stepchildren's lives. So that's being realistic. And just because you come into a situation where you feel like you're going to be better than the person that was before you, you still can't expect instant love. This is a situation that takes time to develop. And it takes quite a bit of effort. So what's the next thing? And this always comes up now, whether you are a biological parent or a step parent, the subject of discipline. So how do you discipline? Who disciplines? Who punishes? These are all realistic questions that have to be considered. But now, just for the sake of argument, let's say that you are willing to follow this particular line of reasoning. Because I am the stepfather, would it be wise for me to punish my stepchildren initially? Well, honestly, that could create some rifts between you and the children because you all haven't developed a relationship. And one thing about discipline that's important to make known is effective if the person who is receiving the discipline understands that this is being done out of love. If a child understands that you're doing this because you want to correct a behavior that might become a problem for them in the future, you're looking out for their welfare, their best interest, then discipline is effective. And so in some situations, it may be necessary for a time, especially with a stepfather, to allow some time to pass by before you physically discipline a child. So you would allow the biological parent to do it. The mother in this instance, she would be allowed to make the discipline. But in this situation, as far as discipline is concerned, as parents, you have to be a united front. That's necessary. You have to be a united front. And so that takes us into our next point. Parents have a need to communicate. And so if a stepfather and mother there, husband and wife, if they're communicating constantly, if they're not letting anything that's happening around them keep them from communicating, then see they're always on the same page. They always know the path to take because they've already discussed what things will happen, what things won't, what things are desirable, what things aren't desirable. They've already talked about that. So now, it's necessary, like I mentioned, to talk things through, because individuals who want to be successful, that's what they do. That's what they do. Because now a stepfather, in looking at the situation, he can gain some insight from his wife, and then on certain situations, especially if the mother is raising boys, then she can gain some insight from her husband about how to handle her sons. So really, what the whole purpose of this endeavor is, if you're thinking about becoming a step parent, the whole endeavor, to be summed up in a few words, is that you want to produce productive, balanced children. And some of the things that we talked about today will actually do that. So now, as we mentioned, those are some of the things that parents can do. If an individual is looking at becoming a step parent, they need to think about deeply how is it that they can show the children that there's respect for that new parent coming in, also that there's love, and then gradually the children themselves, after seeing the love between their stepfather and their mom, then that love will maybe rub off on them, because as they get to know one another, then they'll come to be loved and respected by the stepfather, and then they can reciprocate. Then the step parent, the stepfather, needs to understand that he needs to be realistic. Even though he may come to love and appreciate these children as his own, the fact of the matter is he may never replace that biological parent. He may never do that. And so that's just being realistic. But that doesn't mean that the child doesn't love and appreciate their step parent. It just means that they have a natural connection to their biological parent, which is understandable. And then, as we mentioned about discipline, being very careful so that the child is at a level where they understand that the discipline is coming out of a place of love and concern for their welfare. That discipline is effective. And so that's the kind of discipline that needs to be administered. And that can only be done after getting to know the child or the children and developing a relationship with them. And then the last thing we talked about, which may be the most important thing, is to have a united front through communication. Communication. So if there's something that needs to be discussed, if there is a decision that needs to be made, they do it together. If there are difficulties that arise, they handle those together as one. And so I think that in the end, the pros and the cons have been discussed today. There's quite a bit for an individual to think about. But my advice would be not to just close oneself off. Don't deny the opportunity of an individual who might be a single parent to be a compatible mate for you. You'd really be limiting your circumstances if you did. So, I'm thankful that you all were able to tune in. I hope that the message today was not too heavy. I didn't mean for it to be. As always, I thank you for coming back and sharing this information with me. As always, be easy.